So back 2010, 2011, I was dating this guy who unfortunately was very abusive. He obviously wasn't abusive all the time, or I wouldn't have stuck around. I don't want to say that I would have been too smart, because that's really not the case. The real kicker was that there were also other women that had accused him of being abusive, and in some twisted way I felt the need to protect him from that. A couple notable incidents of violence included a time that he choked me in front of a bunch of people, and I don't know how well you can see this, but this is a scar that needed 15 stitches to close. And that's the scar 4 years later. So, needless to say, the time that my ex cut my arm open was the time that we broke up. He wasn't honestly in a very good place when we broke up. I didn't know it at the time, but because of that I actually have PTSD. What finally kind of, I guess you could say, woke me up was talking to a woman I knew named Sage. Kind of ironic and apropos. But Sage said to me, you know, what would you do if what happened to you had happened to a daughter or a sister or a best friend? And that's what kind of spurred me to want to go to the police to, you know, essentially report him, both for my own safety and for the safety of anyone else he may come into contact with later on. Now, sadly, I was mistaken in thinking that the police would actually be helpful. I spent well over an hour talking to one detective. What I didn't know at the time was how badly I was going to be re-victimized by her. One of the problems with PTSD is that essentially it causes things like violent nightmares, memory loss, anxiety, all of these lovely symptoms. At the time I couldn't reconcile, is probably what you could say, the fact that someone I loved would do something that would hurt me so badly. So when she asked me what happened to my arm, I told her I didn't know, because at the time my memory has just blocked it out. She asked about things like the chat log I brought in, where my ex said, oh, you know, I choked you because, or you know, the evidence I brought in where there were witnesses to that, things like him breaking beer bottles, breaking a bathtub. What I didn't know at the time was that around the same time she talked to me, this detective also talked to my ex. And after talking to him, she came back with more explanations of, oh, well, you know, when you say he choked you, he says he choked you because blah, blah, blah. So it's okay that he choked you because he didn't really mean it. Basically a lot of bullshit that served to already feed all the negative self-talk that was in my head, that it was my fault, that I deserved it, that blah, blah, blah. All of which is fucking bullshit. If I can say that, I hope I can. Anyway, so I guess the real kicker was that at the time, after we'd spent over an hour in one of those interview rooms, you know, the kind with like the camera on the ceiling and where they record everything you say, after all that recording info was shut off, she said to me, if you come back to report anything else, I'm going to arrest you both. You know, I thought the police were there to protect me. I thought that him abusing me would be something that they would look into, take seriously, help protect me from, or reconcile, and I just got none of it. So, fast forward to almost a year later. So my ex and his friends were slandering me, both online and in person to people. My ex was still stalking me to some of my theater and work events. He and his friends were stalking me to social events. I obviously, at the time, still felt I couldn't trust the police, and I tried talking to a lawyer. The lawyer actually recommended that I speak to a justice of the peace. Essentially, they're a person within the court system that will hear evidence, and if they think that there's enough to pursue a criminal charge, they will pursue it on your behalf. So I spoke to the justice of the peace. It was a very excellent man. He was very smart enough to see how traumatized and hurt I'd been by everything over the last year and a half, and he was very eager to try to pursue a conviction against my ex. I guess what I didn't know at the time is that apparently the justice of the peace then I guess has to go back to the police, or they get notified somehow about an investigation. And what happened was 2 months later, I was supposed to go to court to give this evidence against my ex again to be heard. And that's when I saw the detective that I spoke to almost a year ago walking into court with my ex. She sat with him, she talked very friendly with him. I also watched her walk up and talk to the Crown prior to the trial starting. The cop walked back and sat with my ex, and court started shortly after that. I was called, but I was not called to give any evidence, which I found really weird. And so probably about an hour or so into the court proceedings, I went to go get a drink, go to the bathroom, find out what was going on, And that's when I was ambushed in the hall by said cop and one of her cop friends. At the time, I was told that I was being arrested, and that led to me being held in a jail cell overnight, strip searched, and my fiance had to come and post bail for me. Ultimately, this took probably about 4 or 5 months of going back and forth to court, but the charges against me were eventually dropped. What I guess kind of know now that I didn't know then was, I guess I recognize how much, instead of protecting me, doing the right thing, carrying out justice, this cop carried out, I guess you could say, a miscarriage of justice. All of the work that I'd done within the last year to heal from the trauma was completely erased, and it was replaced with more trauma. You know, if you were to ask me now whether or not I would choose to go through something like this again, I'd probably say no. You know, the fact that the system is very slowly starting to change, is very slowly starting to take more steps to protect victims. It's not moving nearly fast enough. There's still so many people being failed by the system. And what I really want to see, I hope this will come about in effect, is one day, sooner rather than later, we will have a system where trans people, where people of color, where poor people, they're treated the same way, treated with a level of respect, they're kept safe, their lives are not in danger. You know, these people who are already victims of the system, victims of crime, victim of abuse, will not be re-victimized.
So, my sister's orthodontist was heavily recommended to us. He does really good work, he was reasonably priced, he's black, and his office is in a really nice area. I mean, it's predominantly less pigmented, so white, but it's in a really nice area. When mom and sis went for our first consultation, I decided to tag along because I'm nosy. We pull up, we go inside in the reception/waiting area, and it is really nice. I mean, like, they have art on the walls and sculptures and shit all around. Now, as a plush pal, aka curvy girl, plus size, big girl, more cushion for the pushing, I have gotten in the habit of assessing chair structures before I sit in them for sturdiness, because you just can't be sitting everywhere. And I quickly came to the conclusion that the nice little Art Deco chairs that they had in the lobby were just not going to be plush pal friendly. I mean, they were like these white hard plastic chairs, the kind of plastic with no give, with a small round bottom that you could barely fit one butt cheek on, let alone two. I decided that it would be better for me and the chair if I just stood. He calls us back to the office, and we get in there, and what do you know? They have the same damn chairs from the lobby in the office. But now the guy says, please have a seat. So, I can't just stand up because that's just gonna be awkward, weird, and like a tad bit rude. So I took a deep breath, squeezed all my muscles together, because that makes you weigh less. And I sat down. He talked for like about 15 minutes. Then he finally asked us if we wanted to take a tour of the facility. And inside, I am like, yes! I jumped about that chair so quick, y'all. I was just too relieved to get up out that chair. I had these little beads of sweat curling up on the back of my knees because I was squeezing my muscles so tight I didn't want to move. I was scared. So in the process of me doing this, we hear this loud cracking noise. And I am just thinking, damn. So Doc, sis, mom, they all turn to look at me. I look down at the chair. And let me tell you, the chair, stupid little chair, the chair was fine. But on the floor next to the chair was my iPhone. And you know what it had? It had a nice new splintery design on the screen.
Please forgive the webcam footage. I'm literally going to South Africa in 10 minutes, so I gotta make this quick. I was a guest on What's the Story, a podcast that dives into different aspects of storytelling. I talk a lot about the process of OTS and all the challenges that comes with it. So if you're interested, please check out the link below. The themes for September will be announced at the next episode, which is Elma Fi's vlog tour episode, so please check that out. I will see you later.